We're going to start addition and subtraction just by defining what an equation is. An equation is a math sentence. In that math sentence, the verb of your sentence is basically the equal sign. So it's just a sentence in math that states that two expressions represent the same quantity, or to say that two things are equal. So the main thing we're looking for is an equal sign. So you want to be careful that you're not referring to an expression like 6 plus 8 or 85 minus 10 as an equation, right? We don't want to call things like that an equation because it's not. It doesn't have an equal sign. So if you don't have an equal sign, be careful that you call it something else like an expression, or just say it's a problem that we're working on. So our general addition equation would look something like this. Technically, you could also write that as C equals A plus B. When we do this, the two things that we are adding together, there is a name for those, and they are called addends. So both A and B are addends, or they're sometimes also referred to as summends. And then the answer to an addition problem is called the sum. So if you're asked to find the sum, then you're asked to find the answer. So in lower elementary grades, students are often required to rewrite addition equations as subtraction equations in order to solve them. So for example, if we use this one, A plus B equals C, we could rewrite that as subtraction in a couple different ways. It depends on whether we want to write A equals or B equals. So for example, if I wanted to write A equals, we would write the equivalent subtraction would be C minus B, because if we know that we would add B to A in order to get C, then that means we would actually subtract it from C, or you can imagine subtracting both sides of that equation by B in order to get A. And then if we wanted to know what B was, we would do the same thing. You can imagine subtracting both sides of your equal sign, subtracting A there. But again, it's just the idea that if I'm adding two things together to get C, then I would subtract one from C to get the other one. So B equals C minus A would be an equivalent subtraction equation. So at the lower elementary level, we don't subtract things to both sides. We just kind of use reasoning and have them know what the equivalent subtraction equations are. Now, they would do it with numbers, right? So it's the idea of, oh, if I had 1 plus 3 equals 4, I know that I could also express that as 4 minus 3 equals 1, or 4 minus 1 equals 3. Those are the equivalent subtraction equations. So the general form of a subtraction equation is we have one number minus another, and that's equal to another number. So the two numbers that we are subtracting, they also have names. The first number in your subtraction sentence, in your subtraction equation, is called the minuend. So make sure you know the names for these and you also know how to spell them. Y is called the subtrahend. So it's the first one is the minuend, the second one is the subtrahend in any subtraction expression. If you have trouble remembering which is which, like whether the minuend is first or second, I always just remember that the word minus starts with an M and ends with an S. So that means that the first one is M for minuend and the second one is S for subtrahend. So that helps me remember. And then the answer to a subtraction problem is called the difference. So if you're asked to express the difference, really you're asked to find an answer to that subtraction. And then we could write our subtraction equations as an equivalent addition equation. So for example, x minus y equals z, I could rewrite that as addition. So we could think of, well, what if I add y to both sides? So we could think of this as x equals y plus z. But again, that's just an equivalent equation because I know that if the difference of x and y would give me z, then that actually means that x is equal to both of y and z together. And then we could write other related subtraction equations. So we could write y equals x minus z, and really that just comes from this addition one, or z equals x minus y. Or you could write that differently. You could write x minus z equals y. It doesn't really matter what order you write those things in. When it's an equation, we can write, one side on the left and the other side on the right, or we could switch those. It doesn't matter. So same thing here. We could write that as x minus y equals z.